Hey, Trail Kreitzer at goHUNT. Today, as you can see, I'm back in my basement in my little archery shop, and I'm doing some gear reviews. And I have a piece of equipment that I'm pretty excited about talking to you all about. I wished I would have had this thing a few weeks ago. If you watched some of the other gear reviews, you knew I was going to Arizona on late season archery, elk hunt. Long story short, I put a really long stock on a nice bull. Had him bedded all afternoon at 80 yards. He did just what I thought he was gonna do. He stood up just after sunset, fed into my alleyway, which I'd picked out. I'd done all the work to be prepared to make this shot. The only thing I hadn't done is taken precaution or took an accurate range. So I ranged a rock that he walked in front of. I have a Leica rangefinder, and if any of you have the old Leica 1000 rangefinders, you know that as you make that range, you have to wait about half a second for it to give you the calculated angle. And for whatever reason, perhaps it was the sun baking my skull all day, but I completely forgot to wait for that range. I made the dial, settled in. It was probably one of the best shots I've ever made on an animal. I remember being totally calm. The pin just sat there. Shot broke, and I watched that arrow the whole way. For those of you that shoot a lot, you probably know those shots that when the arrow breaks and you actually see that thing the whole way to the target. That was one of these shots, and unfortunately my arrow went right over the top of him. Left to right, it was absolutely just a great shot, but I shot right over the top of him, and that was all due to me, one, lack in, it's just a rookie mistake, and then two, angle compensations. One of the most common reasons that people miss, and really the reason that I missed that bull in Arizona here just a couple weeks ago, is that the angle compensation isn't taken into account. So if you range something with a traditional rangefinder without angle compensation, it's going to give you the true distance to that object. It's not going to take into consideration the angle. So if you are shooting uphill or downhill, that true range is actually shorter than what the actual range is. So for example, on this bull that I shot at, I believe I had ranged him at like 73 yards and dialed my pin, executed a shot that I felt so good about. I've made that shot a billion times at the archery range. After I kind of collected my nerves and seen that I'd missed, and I rearranged and waited for that angle compensation, it was much closer to like 64 yards. So it was a pretty good downhill. The cut was almost 9 yards. It was a pretty steep decline. So that was one of the reasons that I missed. It's a really common reason for people to miss a shot with a bow and arrow, is not taking into consideration the actual angle compensated range. And so I have a rangefinder today that I have been super excited to review and take a look at. And this is the Leupold RX Fulldraw 4. This little rangefinder is actually Chris Neville's in the office. He had the privilege of being able to use this all year. I should have snaked it from him before I went on my Arizona hunt and used it, but I didn't. So tag soup, right? Humble pie. Get him next year. But I did want to do a review. This, like I said, this is a product I've been super excited about and checking out, and it's this Fulldraw 4 by Leupold. This is the bow hunter's rangefinder. So some of the key features I want to touch on with this rangefinder. This is the only rangefinder that incorporates Archer's Advantage technology and uses the inputs, the parameters that you use to put inside this thing to give you an extremely accurate range. So for those angled shots that are close uphill, for those moderate angled distance long shots, this is going to give you an extremely accurate range. As accurate as anything that exists on the market. So for a bow hunter, that's big. I mean, for me, that's the difference of packing out a nice 6x7 and then coming home with my tag in my pocket. So that Archer's Advantage software, what you're going to do is you're going to input your arrow weight, your arrow velocity, your peep height, and it's going to take this all into consideration and give you an accurate range. That's huge. That's one major benefit of this rangefinder. You can tailor that thing to your exact setup, so that's super cool. One of the other features about this rangefinder that's great is they have what they call Flightpath technology. So as you range an object that you would like to shoot at, it's going to generate the range for you, and then above that you're actually going to see a line, and that solid line is the transect, if you will, of the highest point of your arrow as that travels in the arc. Why that's important is that you can instantly tell as you range something if your arrow is going to impact a branch or some brush. It's going to give you an indication of how much clearance you've got. Just about everybody I know has missed an animal because they hit a branch or a tree limb at the height of that arc of your arrow, and it just deflected that arrow. So that's huge. That's another major advantage of this Leupold. This thing has a 6-time magnification, which is great. Leupold's known for making great glass. If you look at the display, you're going to see it's a nice bright red display as you look through that. It's easy to see at dawn and dusk with that red indicator, those red yardages on the inside. I like that. The other thing I like about it is it has a nice armored rubbered coating. It's kind of tacky, which is great. It fits in your hand very nicely. You can kind of see the size of that in your hand. The other thing I really like about it is it fits great in these rangefinder pouches. So the one I use is the Outdoor Vision Sightline rangefinder pouch. You can kind of get an idea of how well that thing fits in there. So it fits like a glove. If you're looking at the marsupial pouches that we have, it's going to fit very similarly. It's going to give you a nice snug fit. You can kind of see how well that thing works. You got a nice long lanyard here, which is great. You can use that. Chris, I believe, does not use like an accordion style bungee cord to hook to it. I think he actually uses the lanyard and feeds that through his bino harness, so he's always got that thing close at hand. So this rangefinder is actually good out to 1,200 yards on a reflective surface, which is great. If you're a rifle hunter, you can still use this. They're saying it's also great out to 900 yards on a mule deer or an elk, which is awesome. I'm not an extreme long range rifle hunter, so for me, this would suit my purposes. And primarily, I'm a bow hunter, so this is a product that I am really super excited about. So if you're a bow hunter, you need this Leupold RX4. It might have been the difference between me filling my permit and me going home empty-handed this year. If you have any questions about this Leupold RX4 Fulldraw rangefinder, please drop me a comment below. I'll be happy to answer that for you. We'll drop in some views of what that reticle looks like and kind of some of the other features in that in this review. But once again, Leupold RX Fulldraw 4 rangefinder. These are available right now in the goHUNT gear shop.